Well, find a job for yourselves. You see, for example, I came somewhere. I applied to medical school on my own. My mom didn't help me get in. My dad didn't help at all. I simply applied to medical school by myself. I got into medical school. I had nowhere to live. I simply worked as a janitor, as a guard, and did all sorts of jobs. I served the bedpan for those who were ill. You have one problem. You don't realize that you're a man? Go and find yourself a job. What does it have to do with your mom, dad, or relatives? What do all these people have to do with it, really? You're a man, you understand?
From the audience, I'm not accusing anyone.
It's not about accusing anyone. You're telling me now that they don't want to give you a job. What does it matter what they want? If they don't want to, let them not help. No one helped me. My mother said, I won't help you in life because we're a poor family. There were 5 people competing for one place at the institute. I just took the initiative and applied. I never asked anyone, why aren't you helping me? So when I got in, I had nowhere to live. I found a job and lived wherever I could. There was this old lady I lived with. She boiled urine every day, and the entire apartment smelled of urine. When I woke up in the morning, her dog would poop under my bed. I'm just sharing my life story with you. I endured and lived because I knew I had no other choice. I couldn't find anything better. I'm telling you about my life. You know why? You see, I started from there and now I'm here giving a lecture. I'm sharing my life story with you so that you understand that your problem isn't with your relatives. It's about your mindset. You just need to go and find yourself a job. What's the problem? You say, I came here to work and now I want to enroll in a spiritual institute. What does a spiritual institute have to do with it?
From the audience, that's my goal.
First, find yourself a job, earn some money for yourself, live within your means, and then set any goals you want for yourself.
From the audience, I had this goal 2 years ago.
If the spiritual institute will support you, will it support you? They may have arrangements like that in monasteries associated with spiritual institutes. There's a possibility that the monastery can provide for you, and you won't depend on anyone else financially. You might not even be aware of it. Why the spiritual institute then? Your thoughts are jumping around again. You see, here's the thing. You say you want to enter a spiritual institute, but you can't even answer me.
Can it support you or not? From the audience, yes, it can.
Well, go ahead and enroll. Live there like a monk, study. You say, I don't want to go to a spiritual institute. I want to be a translator. Well, then go ahead, earn some money for yourself and study to become a translator. Later, if you decide you'll be a translator for a spiritual institute, it means you have a problem with your mind. Because when a person keeps changing their mind, either relying on relatives or doesn't even know what they want, it's a problem with the mind, not with the institute or relatives. It's a problem with the mind.
From the audience, what should I do?
I will tell you right now what you should do. There are different stages of a man's development. When a man is not developed, he has a very weak willpower impulse. And to activate his willpower impulse, a man must first start carrying weights, running, wrestling, lifting weight. In other words, he must first become physically active. You have a lazy mind, a lazy body. You're not an awakened person. As a man, you're not awakened, you understand? You just need to start running, doing exercises, lifting weights, toughening up, and putting in daily effort to develop your willpower and become a man, you understand? When a person becomes a man, there's no need for him to tell anyone whether they helped him get a job or not. For a man, that's a total disgrace. When he behaves like that, you understand? I mean, I don't tell anyone who helps me and who doesn't. Do you understand? Just become a man and that's all. Start doing exercises. Start working on yourself. Become strong and determined. Get a job. My sister's son came to visit me in the village. He came and said, Oleg, I don't know where to find a job. You understand? Well, I found him a job and he's working. But it's funny because a man himself should conquer his own destiny. He shouldn't rely on relatives, fathers, mothers, uncles, or aunts. You are a man. How old are you?
From the audience, 25.
Do you think someone will marry you?
From the audience, number.
No, because you're just like a kitten. A woman needs protection by her side. A woman needs a man. You're 25 years old, can you imagine? At 25 years old, People already called me Oleg Gennadyevich, and at 24, I began giving lectures. Imagine, just a year ago, you're already giving lectures. People come to the lectures and listen. At the age of 12, I started swimming in ice holes. And at 21, a professor from the medical institute went ice swimming with me. He was the head of the department. We were friends. I taught him to swim in ice holes. And at 23, I started a club for alternative medicine. 3 professors used to attend it. 3 heads of departments from the institute. I was 23 years old at the time. And here you are at 25 already, you understand? You are saying, nobody is helping me find a job. What's that? Do you even respect yourself as an individual or not?
Yes.
Then run, do push-ups, toughen up, look for a job, go ahead. If you're a man.
Thank you.
It was the beginning of the Great Patriotic War. The Germans approached the river with a large tank brigade, and there was a small bridge. The Russians decided to retreat because a massive enemy army was advancing on them. And they asked one soldier to hold back the tank onslaught. He had 1 cannon and about 50 shells. And this soldier, he first disabled 1 tank on the bridge, then another, blocking the bridge. An enormous army of tanks started searching for where the shots were coming from. He was shooting from behind the trees. He couldn't be seen, and he disabled more than 20 tanks. When they arrived at that spot, they thought they were facing a whole unit in battle. They only saw 1 cannon. There was that soldier who was 21 years old, and he perished, but they buried him with a salute. The fascists buried that soldier with a salute. The commander said, if we had at least 100 people like him, we would easily conquer the enemy. He was 21 years old. He didn't ask anyone how to defeat the enemy. He shot, he conquered, and he met a hero's death. He entered paradise afterwards, while those who rely on their mothers end up in hell. Is a sin for a man. A man's body is meant for victory. Your question, young lady?
Question. The young lady says she has a complicated relationship with her mother, who had a stroke.
You see, your mother is not herself right now because she had a stroke, and it affected the area related to thinking. Sometimes people lose themselves. You've been used to her as your mother. You should take care of her and respect her opinion, but she's not herself at the moment. She doesn't grasp anything.
A young lady says she talked to an astrologer, and he said her mother has only a little time left to live. I'm curious, how many years did he say she has left, audience? He said about 5 years.
I agree with that. I think even less than what he said. The young lady, can she extend her mother's life through prayer? The answer, you can extend it for about 6 months if you pray intensely. Then comes the immediate question, why do all people pass away when their time comes? Your mother simply lived her life in an unhealthy way, and that's why her body is not ready to live any longer.
Audience, so at most 5.5 years and there's no chance.
It's all up to God. But you see, if a person doesn't want to live, you know?
Does she go out for walks or stay at home all the time? She stays at home.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, she doesn't want to live. I mentioned in the first lecture that if a person doesn't leave their home, it means you can start ordering a coffin for them. In other words, if an elderly person who doesn't want to leave their home, so they are destined for death. No movement means no life. I'm saying that she herself doesn't want to live, you understand?
So, should I accept it as a fact?
Try to inspire her and get her out of the house for walks. If she starts moving, she could live for another 10 years. She needs to learn to walk a lot. If she walks for an hour, once every 3 days, she'll live for 7 years. If she walks for 2 hours, once every 5 days, she'll live for 9 years. When a person doesn't want to live, it means they're not really living. You see, I run 16 kilometers once every 6 days, and I extend my life by 20 years. At 65, I should start experiencing old age. But with this running, it'll be at 85. If I keep running regularly, my life will extend. It all depends on the individual. If they want to live, they do. If they don't want to, they won't. You see, if a person is lazy and avoids self-discipline, their body weakens, and that's it. I heard about a woman who is 91 years old. She walks 7 kilometers every day. She underwent surgery. Something happened and she spent 2 weeks in the hospital, unable to move at all. Can you imagine? She had been moving all the time, but after 2 weeks in the hospital, she couldn't move at all. So she began moving her fingers, then her hands, then she started moving on the bed, Then she began sitting up. Then she started standing up. Then she began walking 10 meters, 20 meters, 40 meters, 7 kilometers. At the age of 91, if someone wants to live, they live. If they don't want to, they don't.
Should my mom run or walk?
Why should she run? Just walk. Running? What are you talking about? To be able to run, you have to condition yourself for it. You see, when I realized that I was living incorrectly, even though I had been practicing yoga all my life. I prayed all my life, took ice baths, but it turned out that I lacked movement. When I was 50, I would run 500 meters and got out of breath. I started running 500 meters and I ran slowly. It's like how people walk. I used to run 500 meters like that, even while giving lectures to people. So that's the situation I had in my life 4 years ago. Then 600 meters, then 700 meters. I learned to run 5 kilometers in a year. I worked towards it for a whole year. I thought that running 6 kilometers would be cool for me. You understand? But another year passed and I started running 12 kilometers. And another half a year passed. I began running 16 kilometers. I realized that it was enough. The body completely cleanses itself during this distance, and I didn't need to run more. That's how I run. For a year and a half, I've been running 16 kilometers each time. Gradually, my pulse started to slow down during the run. You see, the body rejuvenates even though by age it's aging. Then, when I started running 16 kilometers, I realized that I could also start physical training, lifting weights, and so on. During that time, I could do 3 pull-ups. Today I did 9 pull-ups. It's been a year and a half. Well, you see, it all depends on the person. If you want to live, live. If you don't, then perish. Dikul, for instance, was completely immobile. He started by moving his head, and then gradually, step by step. Now they teach everyone how to get up when you're immobile. People who want to get out of a wheelchair just do exercises all day, and as a result, their nerves regenerate. Everyone gets up. It's inevitable. But if you don't want to, I have an acquaintance who doesn't want to. She just says, I don't want to. Well then, stay in the wheelchair. What can you say to her? A lady in the audience asks, so she has talked to consultants, and is it enough for her to just run? She just needs to walk. The lady continues, or rather walk for 2 hours every day. The reply is, yes, that's right. First you need to walk every day, and then when the distance is 2 hours, take a break for 5 days. That's it. 9 years she will live. Here's my guarantee. If she doesn't attempt to jump from the 9th floor, you see, different people have their own peculiarities. If she continues to live calmly all the time, she will live for 9 years. But approximately after 4 years, she will have a 6-month period of very difficult life. If she goes down this path, she will survive that period. If not, then no. And this applies to each one of you, you see, to every person. I spoke about it in the first lecture, if you want to live. If you keep being lazy, your health will deteriorate and your health will worsen. Doctors will tell you all sorts of things. Blame it on the environment, blame it on the food. They will tell you anything except for the fact that you simply need to start moving. You understand? Because it's not a popular topic, you know, such a thing. They say, this person talks about something that's not popular nowadays. They will say, who does that these days? Nobody runs, nobody moves, everyone just sits in front of the television. And somehow they manage to live, well, they live the same way, you know, breathing irregularly as if through a straw. If you want to live, then live. If you don't want to, then don't. Wanting to live means austerities. Raise your hand, those of you who have started walking, running, or doing exercises. Do you agree with me? Have your lives changed, become different? It's no longer the same life as before, right? You understand? Everyone tells you about it. Get her outside. Despair ends when a person gains strength. She lacks strength. She's powerless. The child cries because they lack strength. Take the child outside in the pram. Out in the fresh air, the child won't cry, so do the same for the mother. She'll stop feeling down. We are having practical classes on the first lecture. When you take your mother outside, she won't feel down. Just try it and you'll see the result. What's the point of speculating that she doesn't want to live? Let's think now about how to make her want to live. Life means movement. Once you start moving, you'll start wanting to live. So this morning I got up because you really tormented me yesterday. I had no energy. I went for a run, did some exercises on the bars, and I felt like living again. That's it. If you want to, you can live. If you don't want to, then don't live.
Hello, I want to thank you, say a big thank you. I have tears of joy.
I remember you from last time, from last year. You and your husband are always attending my lectures, listening, discussing.
We listen to every one of your lectures. We listen to you every day. Thank you so much.
Be happy, little candy for you. Oops. I'm sorry, give it to her. You probably needed a tap on the head. I apologize. Here's a candy for you too. Well, not on the head. You're getting scared already. Sorry, it happens sometimes. An orange hit one woman on the head and she came up to me crying, saying, "It hurts." I said, "I'm sorry." Then a year later she approached me and said, "Oleg Gennadievich, I was infertile, but after that orange hit my head, I got pregnant within 2 weeks. So I don't know why the candy flew towards your head. There must be some reason, I guess. But don't think that I should be hitting you on the head with candy. I just mentioned it, by the way. Now, your question, young lady."
Hello, I have a question about my mom. She's been drinking for a long time and believes she's in control. I've argued with her and we've drifted apart. Og, is it your dad or husband? Your mom is the one who drinks, but it's her choice, you see. Well, that's what she says, either accept me as I am or...
That's right, yes. I don't know what it would take for her to quit drinking. She's a very determined person, very persistent, and it seems she doesn't want to change anything in her life. And only some kind of miracle can make her change. And this may not happen sooner than 1.5 years. So, about 1.5 years from now, she might have some inner opportunity to start a new life. For now, it's best not to worry about it. Just pray for her. Remember, the most significant help which can be provided to a person is done this way. The relationships between people are in the heart. You can give flowers, thank you very much. She brought the same lovely flowers again. Be happy. Take a similar flower for yourself. Give me one too. Be happy. You see, it's very important to understand that people want to ease the fate of their loved ones through words, trying to give them knowledge. This is a futile task because relationships are at the heart of people, in the heart. When the thread is clogged in the heart, when it's blocked, you see, you have desperation between you and your mother, there's desperation. When you think about her, your heart fills with despair. When she thinks about you, there's protest, tension, she feels like she's being pressured. This is called a clogged thread. It means the connection between you is blocked. So you need to pray until there's peace in your heart. This means that you are ready to overcome fate. Then, as you continue to pray, you gradually come to the feeling that you can help her. This takes time, maybe half a year, maybe a year. You simply pray. You don't talk to her about anything, just pray. And at that moment, when you first feel peace in your heart, it's 33% victory over her fate. Then, further on, you'll feel that you can communicate with her calmly, not about drinking, just about life. Well, just about something. About the weather, have a calm conversation with her. This means you've passed half of the thread, cleaned your half. And then you can simply cleanse her heart through a kind, gentle conversation. Because no matter what a person talks about, people still adopt their character. But since you don't want to drink, then she won't want to either. Just talk to her about anything, whatever comes up. For instance, my wife didn't want to exercise, but she kept catching colds, getting sick. I didn't talk to her about running or walking because she would resist, feeling that I was pressuring her. I simply spoke kindly to her, but in my heart I wanted her to lead a healthy lifestyle. And the time came when she first really wanted to start doing it, then she started looking for friends who would do it with her. Then she started running and exercising with her friends, and eventually on her own. So gradually she changed her life thanks to the prayers I offered. I didn't pressure or push her. I just prayed and believed that the time would come and she would join in. It's the same with your mom. It all depends on you. If you press her, you disrupt the connection. This destroys the bond between you. and that means you won't be able to influence her at all. But if you simply pray, you cleanse that connection and her heart becomes calm. Then you can talk to her calmly. That's a sign that you're already having an impact on her. If you talk to her and don't get nervous, she doesn't become repulsive to you, doesn't evoke dislike or anxiety. You're talking to her calmly. This means that your consciousness is deeply entering her heart. Well, not only what you talk about with her, but everything good you have, she absorbs. Just like people also absorb everything bad. If, for instance, a father swears at work, then comes home and tells his child not to swear, the child will swear when they are outside. You see, just like the father behaves at work, the child will behave outside the same way. But the thing is, the child has never heard the father swearing. The child will simply pick it up because consciousness is something that transfers from one person to another. Consciousness is a living thing. It simply passes from one person to another, both the good and the bad. So if you behave well, think about God, it will be passed on to your mother. And the connection between you will be purified. And that's what you need to focus on. That's why people should learn to pray. They should learn to cleanse their connections with each other, and then everything will improve over time. But if people constantly argue, fraying each other's nerves, then the relationships deteriorate day by day. And there comes a point where it becomes unbearable to live. That's incorrect thinking. There's no need to confront a loved one. You should simply behave correctly, forgive them, pray, and feed them with consecrated food. It also has a strong influence. I have an acquaintance. Her husband is highly educated and a strong person, and she is just the same. And she simply feeds her husband with consecrated food. She doesn't talk to him at all about spiritual matters. He doesn't even want to listen to such topics, and he started to change very quickly. He almost stopped drinking. And if he does drink, he does it secretly, so that he can't be seen. He began to eat less meat, and so on. You see, and it all happens very quickly. He started doing sports, and changes in this person's heart occurred very rapidly, even though he's very rational. She doesn't do anything. She simply feeds him with consecrated food. Consecrated food is like this. You pray while preparing it. This food is infused with the energy of God. A person who doesn't pray eats this food, and the prayer enters them from within. It's as if they prayed themselves. And that's it. If a person prays, it means they are cleansing their life. A good method, you understand? Very good. We tested this method on a dog once. You see, I teach some guys, and they live like monks. I mean, they follow strict rules, have no relationship with women, and pray every day. To master these subtle methods, you need to lead a very pure life, you understand? That's right. In this big house, we got a little dog. When the dog appeared, it immediately killed 2 geese from our neighbor, brought me their heads in its mouth, and dropped them at my feet as a sign of gratitude for taking her. We put her on a chain, got her a kennel, and didn't let her out of the yard. And we started feeding her with consecrated food. After 6 months, winter arrived. 3 months later, she stopped barking at the local cat. Well, the cat felt comfortable by then. When winter came, I was once walking past that kennel and noticed that the cat had entered the dog's kennel. I looked inside and saw that the cat was lying on the dog because it was cold. It was the warmest spot. She went into the kennel and lay down on the dog to sleep, and the dog didn't react at all. Then, in the spring, the dog started feeding all the neighbors' dogs with consecrated food first, and then ate herself after them. When we saw such behavior, we released her, took off the chain. When she went outside the gate, we saw geese walking over her. I mean, she was just lying there. Then she started barking only at strangers and didn't bark at her own people at all. I mean, she knew everyone by their scent and could identify people. And then, when she entered the vestibule without permission, where people leave their shoes, she went in without permission. The dog did. Because people were praying inside, and she would listen to the prayers, because the food was prepared with prayer, and she got used to this food. She was listening to the prayer, even though it was forbidden for her to enter that place. When I saw that, I said, "Get out of here." She tucked her ears back, but didn't leave. I then started dragging her by the legs. She resisted with her hind legs and didn't want to leave. So I left her. I realized she was listening to the prayer. She approached the door, lay down like this, pressed her ear, and listened as people were praying. If a dog can change as a result of prayer, can't your mom change too? Is she worse than a dog? Prepare blessed food, give it to your mom. Your mom will stop drinking. Let others have the opportunity to ask questions too. There's a girl at the back on the last row. Right there at the back.
Good day to everyone. Good evening, Oleg Genadievich.
Why good day to everyone and good evening to me? Is it because I'm older than the others? Am I aging?
I've been seeing a young man for a long time, quite a long time, almost 5 years.
How many? Almost 5 years. Why have you been seeing him for so long? What's the reason?
I understand it's a long time.
No, that's not the issue. You just need to know your worth. A young man usually dates a girl to eventually marry her. You do want to get married, don't you? Or not? You do want to get married, right?
Of course.
Of course. If it's of course, then you should simply set a limit in your mind. 2 years is the maximum to get to know someone. 2 years. Well, if after 2 years a man has gotten to know you and he doesn't propose, then he's somehow incomplete. It means he's underdeveloped, lacking the inner responsibility to commit. So why continue seeing him? You should end it, put a period, and that's it. It should have been done 3 years ago. You see, you're losing yourself as a result. You see, when a woman allows herself to be treated this way at dating for 5 years without a proposal, she loses herself, you know? Later on, she'll think it's acceptable to be treated like that in general. It's an absolute nightmare, really. So you just need to put an end to it, and that's it. Usually when a woman puts an end to it, it triggers a revolution in the man's mind and he starts proposing. But if you miss the moment, then it's all over. You see, gradually a person becomes tiresome. Especially if you allow him an intimate relationship with you, that's when it becomes even more so. When a woman allows an intimate relationship in bed, she becomes attached to him, but he, on the contrary, cools off towards her. I mean, he got what he wanted and he's no longer interested. She becomes attached. She starts feeling like he's already hers, like family, you know? But he becomes indifferent, no longer interested. What does this mean? It means that this isn't a very good way to build a relationship, you understand? That's why in ancient culture, it was marriage first and then intimacy. But if a woman doesn't understand these principles, she might think, if I don't allow this, no one will ever marry me. Quite the opposite. Wise people always behave differently. Now, if a man wants to enjoy a woman, well, he has all the opportunities, you understand? For 5 years, the man was draining the woman's energy. When a woman lives alone for 5 years with no one around, she becomes very strong in terms of her ability to get married and can find a very strong man. This is called chastity. So if she keeps her vow of chastity, she becomes purer, stronger, and starts to radiate. Such radiance emanates from her, a feminine beauty, you know? And she may find herself a very good person. But if she has been defiled for 5 years, she loses that beauty and the opportunity to have someone else in her life. I mean, a normal woman wouldn't allow herself to be treated like that. Have respect for yourself, for your divine feminine nature. Don't allow such mistreatment of yourself. A woman should be married. It's also necessary that he promises that he will definitely give her the opportunity to have children. But if you allow all of this, it simply means you don't respect yourself as an individual, and that's it. What do you want to ask me? Tell me.
I understand perfectly. I expected to hear this.
Well then, what else is your question? What else do we need to discuss if I've already told you everything? A man who can't make a proposal in 5 years is simply an underdeveloped person, and there's no point in continuing to date him. He's just underdeveloped as an individual. It happens, you understand? There's a joke about it. They made Pinocchio, but he had a bolt on his nose. They made him with a bolt. And Papa Carlo asks, "Why did you put a bolt?" They say, "It couldn't be done without it." When he got home, he unscrewed the bolt from Pinocchio and his legs fell off. That's it. You see an unfinished, underdeveloped person with a bolt on his nose. You understand? Why are you dating him? Leave him alone. What do you want from me now? There's no need to explain anything to me. What's there to explain? Everything is clear. The man hasn't proposed in 5 years. You need to put an end to it. That's it. Why explain?
But he doesn't refuse to take responsibility, OG. Really? Well, then it's deception altogether.
You see, if a man says he doesn't refuse to take responsibility but still doesn't take it, he's just fooling you. It takes 5 minutes for a man to pull the wool over a woman's eyes. You can say all sorts of things, you understand? He tells her, "I'm not marrying you because of this or that reason. You know, I have universal problems, so when I solve them, then we'll get married." It's all nonsense. If he wants to take responsibility, he takes it, and that's it. No, there are no reasons not to get married. You understand? There are no reasons at all. There's only one reason: immaturity. But you are also immature as a woman. Because you can't understand me. I've been saying the same thing to you for 15 minutes, but you don't hear me. But you raised your hand. I don't know why. All right, pass the microphone on. I won't continue talking. If you don't respect yourself, no one will respect you. Here, young lady, please. Get the microphone closer. It's hard to hear you. This happened last year, right? And I visited you 4 months ago, right? Yes, I've already forgotten. All right. Did I spoil you? It seems I visit you so often.
Explaining, then, about a month and a half later, I met a guy online, and now we're in touch.
Based on your lectures, which I've been using for almost a year, I wanted to ask you if it's worth living with him at all. Why? What's the problem? Why are you asking?
Well, I listened to your lectures, and I've heard that long-distance relationships are not possible. Og, where does he live? He lives in Astana, Og. Well, so what? It's just an hour and a half by plane to Astana. Well, yes, initially it didn't bother me. I was just communicating, praying, Og. So are you ready to move to him if needed? Yes, Og, that's it. I have a question. Are his feelings for me genuine? Is it worth continuing to communicate with him? I pray, and our relationship is improving.
I can say about myself that my feelings for you are genuine, but about him, you have to decide for yourself. It's your decision, not mine. I can't say such things because if I tell you something and he doesn't make the right decision, then who will be to blame?
Og, you have to study the person yourself. I want to say that everything you say, it all works, morning prayers.
Then listen to me carefully. Interact with this young man and observe. Remember one principle. If a man is pursuing a relationship, calling on his own, messaging, gradually deepening the relationship, wanting to meet and starting to make offers, this means he's aiming for a married life. If he suggests a bed, offers a hotel to spend a couple of days together and so on, refuse. I mean, if a man is behaving correctly, it means he has feelings. If he says, "I have such feelings," like in the previous conversation, you see, he may say, "I have such feelings." But if he hasn't proposed for 5 years, it means there are no real feelings. It's just talk. I mean, you see, for a man, real feelings mean that he wants to take responsibility because there are other feelings too. When a man wants to enjoy a woman's body, be delighted by her.
Og, that's it. So look further, observe, and draw your own conclusions about the person. Thank you very much. Thank you for the lectures.
Don't get too attached to a close person. Don't attach yourself right now. Just watch, observe him, see how he will behave in the future. If you don't get attached to him and behave confidently as a woman, then he will become attached to you, always. When there is love between people, the woman should try not to get attached. Then the man will become attached, and this is right, it creates a family. But if a woman gets attached and the man doesn't, it creates sin. I mean, the man starts to enjoy the woman, provokes her, and she tolerates it. Well, you should do the opposite so that the man becomes attached, and the woman should not get attached when a family is being created. And then, once the family is created, she should get attached to him. Be faithful, not give him away to anyone. If she sees that another woman is getting his attention, she should scratch her face right away. Yes, scratch her face right away. And that's it. So she runs away scared. That's it. And meanwhile, as long as there's no family yet, you have to create a family like in the song. Nina Brodskaya's "One snowflake does not make snow. You tell me about love." That's the system. Did you remember? Go ahead. And if you act like this, there will always be success. If a woman values herself, a man will value her 5 times more. But if she allows him everything, waits for 15 years for him to propose, she will be nothing to him. Zero, just zero. You understand? He can say anything, explaining to you the global reasons why he can't marry you. There are no such reasons. You see, during wartime, men would get married first and then go to war, and their wives would wait for them. You see, there are different situations, but initially a man gets married first. And then, after that, he can do whatever he wants, you know. If he doesn't marry, it means he's irresponsible. He's weak, that's it, you see. There's only one reason. Why marry a weak person? Let him develop, let him grow. If you leave him, he will develop. He will eventually propose. You see, it often happens that a girl puts a period, but the man later adds a comma and sort of pulls her along, and they go to the registry office. But if she doesn't put the period, then there won't be any comma. You understand? It will be the same old story. Has this happened to anyone? You put an end to it, but he took you to the registry office? Look at all the raised hands. Now please raise your hand if you didn't put an end to it, and consequently he hasn't taken you there yet. You see, make your conclusion. All right, my dears, it's time for the lecture. Now we have a lecture. After the lecture, you'll be the first to ask your question. You see, there's a time for questions, and there's a time for the lecture. After the lecture, you'll have the opportunity to ask your questions. There are many of you, and there's just one of me. Jokingly, if I had 100 heads, I could talk to all of you at once. All right, let's focus on the lecture topic. So, on the first day, we talked about the importance of natural forces, and most people don't realize how crucial these forces are. Furthermore, I'm sure that most people in this room haven't fully grasped, even after the first lecture, just how important natural forces are for each of us. Because I believe that for the majority, your comfort and that lazy state of being are more important than life, health, and nature. That's been my experience. It's necessary to study it and comprehend a lot. Furthermore, perhaps a person needs to face some danger in life to wake up, to start surviving, and to realize how to live correctly after that. Sometimes a person may need a little push from fate. But either way, knowledge won't hurt. I've told you and explained all of this. Many people stood up and asked questions, and through their examples, I showed you that many of them lack the forces of nature in their lives. In yesterday's lecture, I told you that God has endowed humans with the ability to nourish themselves not only with the forces of nature, but also with the power of people, human power. We discussed that humans possess divine energy. Just as nature has divine energy, which sustains human health. But the divine energy of people nourishes a person with social power. What is social power? It's the kind of power that can help you get married. With the help of social power, a person can achieve a high position in society. They can find a job. That's power. For example, for a man to find a job, he just needs to do good deeds for people, work for everyone. Remember, yesterday I gave an example of how I helped a friend get a job, took his wife to the movies on a Saturday evening, fed stray dogs near the house, performed other acts of kindness. So, when a man is very active, it's not the first stage. You see, this awakening, like being awakened, is already the second stage. Because in the first stage, I call this a spineless stage. It's the stage when a man is not awakened. So, his psyche is lazy. He can't motivate himself to do anything. His willpower is weak, self-esteem is low, he's not awakened. Therefore, at first, a man needs to awaken himself, or someone should help him do it. I was awakened at the age of 8. My father took me to a Sambo class, and the coach of that class trained the national team. They started giving me a hard time there from the age of 8. I trained there for 6 years and became a real man. I became strong and resilient. The coach helped me a lot. This Sambo coach turned me into a man. And then I continued to push myself. So, a man needs to wake up first. His willpower must kick in initially. After that, he should develop his social strength. He should constantly help others, take care of everyone, and be an active person. That's how I lived. When I was studying at the institute and had free time, I would go to the clinic. I would ask, who among the patients needs help? At first, everyone laughed at me. They said, since you came, go over there and help. But later, I didn't even ask anymore. I just went in. Everyone already knew me. I would enter any ward, and everyone was waiting for me and inviting me in. People in the hospital are in a difficult situation. Often someone needs assistance. Someone needs help somewhere. I did point massages for one person, talked to another, gave advice to the fourth, and gave a present to another. And about a year passed. I spent a whole year helping people like this. I began to gain an understanding of how to help people. Some kind of revelation happened. I started to see illnesses, feel diseases. All of this arose from a sincere desire to help people. 2 years passed and people wanted to come to me for treatment. I didn't need to go anywhere. People came to me on their own. I tried to help them. Then I started giving lectures. So gradually everything developed. That is, when a man is awakened, he starts to take further action. The time comes and he finds friends, opportunities. Someone gives him a job or he finds a job himself. It is all about a person's development. The same goes for women. Here's what an unawakened woman, a girl, looks like. She's a dreamer. She stays at home, very sensitive, fragile. Her mom cooks for her. She doesn't have time to cook for herself. She needs to dream about her future marriage. She's very busy, so she sits, dreams, doesn't want to move. It's hard to get her off the couch. A woman's body is inherently lazy. How can you help a girl? You need to enroll her in some kind of club or activity. The club doesn't necessarily have to be related to physical activity, although movement is also good. It could be dance, painting, singing. It could be artistic gymnastics, choreography. It's preferable for the activity to be connected to art, to love. There should be music, creativity, poetry, songs, poems. So when a girl's energy of love is activated, she becomes very active and highly developed. When a girl becomes activated, all her strength goes into beauty. In a man, the strength goes into determination, the ability to overcome fate. And when a girl awakens, which happens through creativity, she definitely needs a piano, dance, or painting. Something that should activate her so that her creative energy, that feminine energy, can come to life. And when she starts living, the girl becomes very beautiful. What does it mean to be beautiful? It means influential as a woman. And as a result, she begins to mature her sense of self-worth. There's a masculine sense of self-worth and a feminine one. Self-worth is a force that brings luck to a person. What is self-worth, you ask? Well, a person should accumulate good deeds in their life. For example, for a woman, good deeds involve caring for others. Even if a woman walks down the street simply smiling to everyone, that's also performing good deeds. She shares love with everyone, in other words, interacts with the audience, asking if they're comfortable and if the flowers are not in their way. He requests that the flowers be placed in a vase.